Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Marta, I come from Norway and I love makeup. And today Juvia's Place finally revealed their new palette called the Wahala palette, and it is translated into the Drama palette, and it has some gorgeous purples, pinks, reds, blues, greens. We're basically going through the whole color spectrum, I feel like, just with a variation of mattes, shimmers and glitters. I know that a lot of you guys do not like glitters in your palette, and I did really want to dupe the palette and I did not include any glitters in my dupes. And as you can see here, this is my dupe, and I will of course throw up a photo of the actual palette so you can see what I'm trying to dupe. And the only photos that I had for finding my dupes were actually the reveal photos from Juvia's Place. So it was one swatch photo where some of the shades were swatched into each other. So it was really hard to see if my dupes are actually close or not. So I tried to rely a little bit on the color description that they have on their website as well. So a lot of these might not actually be like that close dupes if I had the actual palette to compare to, but this is the best I could do just looking at those two photos. Usually if I dupe, I like to look at a lot of different swatch photos because obviously the skin tone is often very different from mine. As you can see, I'm super pale, so all shades will look a lot deeper on me than they will on the swatch photos of other people, so that's why my dupes might be even more off. But I did my best, and I think I will just go ahead and go through my dupe palette from left to right, top to bottom. And just before I do that, I also want to give you a disclaimer, because I'm not doing this at all because I don't like Juvia's Place or that I'm saying that you shouldn't support them. I have a bunch of Juvia's Place palettes myself. I really do like them. I find sometimes their shimmers are not as sparkly as I prefer mine. They're more like satins, but I have felt like the newer palettes that they have released have a better shimmer formula, and I have no problems using any of the mattes or shimmers in their palettes. And it's quite exciting now because they also added some glitters to their palettes, but I do know that a lot of you don't like glitters, so I actually decided not to add any glitters in my palette, although I do have some sparkly shades here, so if you're interested in seeing that, then please keep on watching. So I think I will just go ahead and start out with the first shade in the palette. In the actual palette it is called the BU, and it is described as a matte dark berry burgundy. And for my matte dark berry burgundy I chose Colored Rain in the shade Snitch. It's actually from their Power palette, which I depotted. I do also have a couple of alternatives that I will show you, but I felt like this one was the one that was more close in the undertone, and therefore that's my dupe for that shade. So I'm just going to swatch that for you right here. It is a little dry to the touch, but it's a very nice performing shade. I have used it before, and as you can see, it gets very dark when you build it up, as you can see on my finger right here. And as I said, I do also have a couple of alternatives for it, and Colored Rain do actually have this single shadow in the shade Ladyship. It is sold as a single, but also in the Queen of Hearts palette, so I have it from the Queen of Hearts palette, which I have depotted. This is more of a berry. It's not that much of a burgundy shade in my opinion, but if you were interested in getting something like this and you didn't want to pick up the Power palette to get just this one shade, even though the palette is 50% off and it's a lot of beautiful shades, so I do totally recommend that if you like purple shades. But then this one could be an alternative for you, because it is relatively similar to what you can see on the photo of the Juvia's Place palette, but I feel like it's a bit more purpley toned than maybe burgundy. Hard to say since I've only seen the few photos that they have. And a lot of you guys also have some ColourPop shades in your collection, I know it. So I also decided to compare it with Sleeper right here. This one is again a lot more purple, I think, from what you can see from the photos of the Juvia's Place palette. But as you can see, it has a very deep berry look to it. So if you have that, then maybe you don't need to pick up this palette if that's the shade you were most excited about. Or you can just build your own palette and see if you actually need the Juvia's Place palette. So the next shade in the Juvia's Place palette is the shade that is called Stand Up, and it is described as simply as a shimmery champagne. And so I actually don't have that many shimmery champagnes, but I just decided to choose this one, which is from Colourpop Ooh La La, but it's also sold as a single. It's called Tickled, and this is more of a interesting shade in my opinion. It has some multichrome sparkles to it, and it looks quite a lot like the actual swatch of that shade that they have. So I think this one could be a good dupe, potentially. But I did also add in one more. This is called Ready or Yacht. It's also from Colourpop. It's a little bit more orangey tone, but it's not super pigmented. So if you're more after like a topper shade, then I guess this one could be described sort of like a champagne, just a bit more of a peachy undertone, I guess. You can, as you can see, build it up. But yeah, it's just not one of my personal favorite formulas, but I did just want to show you the difference from like of these two colors. Next in the Juvia's Place palette, it is the shade that is called Fighter, and it is described as a metallic, vibrant, light, medium green. So I actually have quite a few comparisons for that, because it was hard to see, because I thought it looked a bit different in the swatch as to how it looked like in the actual palette. So the one that I think could be a good dupe is this one from Luxy Beauty. This one is called Siren of the Sea, and as you can see right here, it has a way more, like it's sort of like a duochrome. It's like seafoam green and bright green, and I think that it looks quite a lot like the swatch that they had. As you can see, it is a very sparkly and beautiful shade. This is one of my absolute favorite shades in my whole collection, so if you don't have this, I totally do recommend it. But I do also have a couple others, because as I said, it was hard to see how it actually looked like. So this one also seems like it could fit the description, and this one is the shade Zodiac from the brand Pretties for Your Face. This one I got for only $2, and it's so sparkly and beautiful, and I totally recommend this one too. It's probably one of my favorites from that brand. I have not had time to use it that much yet, but as you can see, it's an absolutely stunning shade. If the shade in the palette is a bit more muted, which again, it's hard to see, then I think this one from Luxy Beauty could also be a nice dupe. This one is called Nymph. It's one of their metallics, and it's a very nice shade as well. As you can see, it's very pigmented and a bit, I would say, a little bit deeper, but still it's a green, not as bright, so I don't think this is the closest match, but I did want to add it. And then last but not least, I have this one, which is a little bit like Siren of the Sea. It's from Davina, and it's called Alew. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's written A-L-E-W, and this one is like a teal to green, shimmery, gorgeous shade. This one is absolutely stunning. I think it's a little bit too blue to be actually considered a dupe, but I still wanted to add it just to show you guys how it looks. So that was a horrible swatch, but at least you can see it. And as you can see, all of these are quite different, but I do think that this one is the closest one as far as I could see from the photos. Or this one, I don't even know. As you can see from my fingers here, they're all super stunning and pigmented. So if you're interested in a green, at least now you got some different options. The next up from the palette is called Fire, and it's described as a fiery matte intense red. And the one I chose as a dupe for that is actually the shade Boop from Luxy Beauty. And I feel like on the swatches it looks like it has a bit of a pink undertone, that it's not like super true red without any pink whatsoever, which is why I decided to choose this one, because I feel like this is a very red shade, but that it has that pink undertone once you sheer it out a little bit, and it's super bright, so I do think this one could be a great dupe actually. So I'm going to swatch this one for you guys as well. So here you can see that one swatched out. I did not really add any other comparisons for that exact shade, so let's just leave it at this one. Next up in the Juvia's Place palette is the far right in the upper corner, and it is called Power, and it's described as a metallic mermaid blue-green duochrome. but from the photo that I was watching, I felt like it doesn't look like super bright or strong duochrome, at least not in the swatch that I saw, which is why I decided to go with the dupe Antimatter by Colourpop, because this one has, it's like blue, but it also is a little bit teal in my opinion, and I feel like it looks a lot like the swatch photo. And I will just go ahead and swatch it out for you guys. This one has a quite deep dark base, but I think it really looks like the photo that they posted of the swatches. Maybe when we see more swatches we will see that it's not really similar at all, who even knows. But I do also have a different one that I wanted to compare and show you guys, and that is this shade, which is from Amy Hart's Beauty. I'm currently not supporting the brand, but I did want to add this because I do have it in my collection. It's called Unicorn Jungle. It's considered one of their multi-chromes, but it's honestly more of a duochrome in my opinion. And it does have more of a green shift compared to the one that I chose for my palette. And as you can see, it's a bit brighter blue, not as much teal and a dark base. But it's a very interesting shade nevertheless. So I will go ahead and swatch that for you right here. So that is a bit brighter, as you can obviously see from the swatch. So the next one in the Juvia's Place palette is the first one in the second row. It is called Unafraid and described as a shimmery medium toned purple with a frosty finish. And honestly, this was one of the ones that I felt was hardest to dupe, just because it was swatched into the shade that is underneath it, and it was kind of hard to see like where they ended and to actually see the shifts. But the one I chose as a dupe is called Duperstar. It's from Luxy Beauty again, and this one has, as you can see, a, I would say, medium toned purple base to it, but it does have a frosty finish, a light blue sheen to it as described on the Juvia's Place page for that shade, so I thought that this could be a nice match for that shade. So I will go ahead and swatch that one for you guys too, and I do also have a couple of alternatives for that shade. As you can see, this has a very strong duochrome sheen to it, and it's a gorgeous shade. As other comparisons, I do also have Skylights from Cliona. This one has a way more cool toned base, which I feel like this one, the one that I have here, is lacking, because I feel like the photos of the actual shade looks a little bit more cool toned purple in the base. So this one I think is a bit too dark to be a dupe, but you will see when I swatch it, it could be a nice dupe. It's just I feel like it is a bit lighter than this one. But this one is a stunning shade which has a lot of different multi-chrome sparkles to it, so definitely recommend this one too. But I do also have one more comparison for that shade, and that is this one from Tammy Tanuka. It's called The Spirit of the Iris Lake. This is such a stunning pigment, and this is one that I pressed myself. I do have a pressing video. I actually have two videos where I press my pigments, so if you're interested in pressing some pigments yourself, then go ahead and check that out in the card that I will leave up here. But this is called The Spirit of the Iris Lake. Doesn't swatch as good as the others, or as opaquely as the others, just because it's a pigment, it's not a shadow. But it's stunning, and since I wasn't sure like how it actually looks, the shade from the Juvia's Place palette, I decided to just add this as a comparison. So if you're interested in shades like that, then here at least you have a couple of alternatives. The second one in the second row in the Juvia's Place palette is called Pride, and it's described as a soft muted matte mauve nude. That's a lot of descriptions, but I chose one of the newer mattes from Luxy Beauty called Forever, and I feel like it fits the description. Maybe it's not super mauve, but it is a muted light pink. And this one I found particularly hard to find a close dupe to, just because I have such a different skin tone from the one who did the swatches. So obviously it looks pale on them, but it's going to look darker on me because I am so pale. But I think this one is relatively close to the actual shade in the palette. If anything, you could at least still use it for the same purposes at least. And then we have the next one. It is called Gossip, and it's described as an intense buttery metallic gold with a green undertone, and I felt like this looked so similar to the swatch photo that they had. And this one is again from Luxy Beauty. It's called Lagoon, and I feel like this is very much like an antique greenish gold or something like that. So it looks like this. As you can see, I feel like it's so close to the swatch photo that they had, and the Luxy metallics are, as you can see, amazing. So if you're interested in something like that in a single, then this one is great. Next shade, it's called Rumors, and it's described as a shimmery metallic coppery rose. And to dupe that one, I chose one from Colourpop, which is called Heads or Tails. I'm not sure if it's still available. I think it might be. It's so hard to know because they're discontinuing so much, but I feel like this is certainly something rose gold, and it looks very metallic like the swatch. So I feel like this could be a close dupe. Again, hard to know because I've only seen those two photos. But this is one of their better formulas for metallics in my opinion, because they might have some that I don't like that much, but this one is really good, as you can see. So the next one is called Yanga in the palette, and it is described as a sparkling deep aqua green glitter. And I did not choose a glitter, but I did choose a glittery pigment. This is from Tamitanuka, and it's called Dark Water Naga. And I feel like this one did maybe not look as close to the shade that some of the others did, but then again I feel like the description fits quite nicely. I feel like this might be a little bit too green, but it's so hard to know. But I feel like this is nevertheless a super stunning pigment, and it's sold as a single. You have to press it yourself if you want it in pressed version, but look how gorgeous this is. And it certainly does have that blue to green or aqua green finish to it. Next up, it's another one that I found quite hard to dupe, and it is called Envy, and it's described as a beautiful shimmer pink violet duochrome with light blue pearls. And I feel like the shade that I picked out does have, like, it does fit that description, but again it's really hard to see how it actually is on the photos. But this one is from the Colourpop Lilac palette, and it's called Wake Me. The Lilac palette is super cheap, you can get it on sale for $9, and I feel like this one might be a close dupe. Who even knows? At least it's the one I chose for my dupe. And I do have a couple of other ones that I wanted to compare to. I think this one is not like the most pigmented one, so you can see I really have to dig in there to get the pigment. But I'm sure if you like build this up, you can totally get it to the opacity that you want. And it does have that description. It certainly looks like a pink violet duochrome with light blue pearls, because it does have that pearl finish in my opinion. And yeah, I think it's really pretty. A different one that I have is the Earth Shine shade. They sell as a single from Colourpop, or it's also in the It's My Pleasure palette, I think. Yeah, it's from the It's My Pleasure palette. And this one has a lot of duochrome goodness in it, and it's way more pigmented and sparkly in my opinion, so this would be my personal choice. But I felt like the other one might look a little bit more like what they described, because this one has more of a peach nudish pink base to it, but super pretty. I also wanted to show you the shade Lofty from Cliona, and this one is quite similar to the other ones. Again, it's one of those pinky purpley bases with a more blue toned shift. This one is way more like a sheen. It's not very glittery or sparkly, but nevertheless it's so pretty, and I really wanted to show it to you guys. It's a little bit more cool toned, as you can see. I think it's mostly just the fact that the sheen is so blue and so beautiful that makes it look a little bit more cool toned, I guess. Next up in the palette, it's the shade Cis, and it's described as a matte cool toned dark brown, and I love to have shades like that in my palette. This one is from Inglot. As you can see from the shape of the pan, it is quite different. I will be repanning this, but I haven't got the time to do that yet. This is number 306, It's a super dark brown, and as you can see it's cool toned. It looks almost black, which I feel like their swatch photo looked like too. So I think this one could be a great dupe. And again, this is at least something that you can use to darken up any look that you make with any of these colors, which I think is the intention of this shade, so certainly a good dupe for that one. The next one in the palette is called Oversabi, and it's described as a dark yellow mustard brown, but from the swatch photo I felt like it looked way more like a dark yellow or a super pale orange. So the shade that I chose out for that one is the shade Tiger from Luxie Beauty. This is an amazing formula. All of Luxie's new matte shadows have one of the best formulas ever in my opinion. So this one I feel like looks really similar to their swatch photo, which is why I wanted to add this to my dupes. So I'm just going to swatch it here. As you can see, it's so pigmented. This is like just only one swatch. If I build it up, you can see it even better, and it blends out so beautifully. So I feel like this is quite a close dupe. The next one in the palette is called Unsilenced, and it's described as a matte coral red. And I feel like this one from Divina Cosmetics is quite a good dupe. It's called Sura, and I feel like it definitely is a corally red shade. It's kind of hard to see exactly how bright or how corally it is from just those two photos, but this is at least my pick for a dupe for that shade. So swatched here, you see that it's definitely very corally. It's a red. Swatched here, you can definitely see that it looks like a coral red shade. But I do also have a couple other comparisons from Colourpop actually. So this one is the shade Oh Ship. This is a lot brighter, but it's definitely more of a corally, almost a bit more orangey red toned. As you can see, it looks a lot more orange maybe, but it's super bright. And then I also have this one, which is called Hop On, also a more corally red. So here is the Oh Ship versus Hop On, and I will also swatch them next to the shade from Divina. So here we have the shade Oh Ship, and here we have Hop On. So Hop On is certainly the one that is most similar to the one that I picked out for my dupe, and yeah, it really just depends on your preferences which one you would pick up if you had to choose which one. The last one in this row is called Love, and it is a matte Crayola blue, and the one I picked up is the shade Surge from Lethal Cosmetics. I feel like this one could be a quite good dupe actually, and Lethal Cosmetic mattes are really pigmented and beautiful, so you're definitely not picking up something bad if you decide to go for this single. And I feel like it looks quite similar to the swatch photos that they have, and I do actually have a different one too that I wanted to compare, but this one actually doesn't have a name. It's from, I know it's from NYX Cosmetics because I bought it in a store in Portugal when I was there a couple of years ago. I have not really used it, so I can't say too much about the formula. It seems to be a little bit hard in the pan, but it did swatch nicely when I was finding my dupes, so I don't know. At least here you can see it's swatched out. It's not the best swatch, but I don't know if the like a Crayola blue is more like that or the one from Lethal Cosmetics. We don't have Crayola here in Norway, so anyway, I just wanted to show you that one. So here we have the first one in the last row. It is called in the actual palette Woke, and it's described as a matte lavender violet. And the one that I chose for my dupe is actually from the Lilac You A Lot palette, and it's called Ghostin'. I feel like this is just as bright as it looks like on the swatch from the Juvia's Place palette, so I think this one could be a great dupe, and I just love colors like this. And this one is a very nice formula as well. It's very pigmented. As you can see, it does have a little bit of kick up, but still a really nice shade. As you can see, it's swatched really good actually. It's a little bit powdery, but very good. And I do have a couple other comparisons too. This one is also from Colourpop, and it's from the purple palette called It's My Pleasure. This one is the shade Kittenfish, and I feel like this one is a little bit more muted. It's a bit less bright than the other one that I just swatched for you guys. but if you have this one, then it could be a great dupe as well. As you can see, it's just a little bit more muted. Then I also have this one from Colourpop. It's called KK, and it is one of their normal newer singles, and I feel like this is a little bit too dark to be a dupe, but certainly if you have a deeper skin tone, then maybe this one will actually work better for you than the other ones that might be closer dupes. It doesn't seem to swatch very well, but I really like all of Colourpop's matte shadows, so I'm sure you wouldn't have a problem using this on your eye. Next up we have the one that is called Unshake, and it's described as a deep shimmery pewter. And I feel like this one is quite spot on from what I have seen from the few photos that I saw. This one is from the Colored Rain Power palette, and it is called Alibi, and it's like this deep pewter purpley shade, because it did feel like it had a lot of purple in it from the swatches that I saw. Maybe I'm wrong, might be too, but at least this one is Alibi from Colored Rain. If you do want to have just a single shadow, I do have a one from Amy Hart's Beauty. I'm not sure if it is discontinued, and as I said, I wouldn't recommend purchasing from her, but this is the shade Elegance, and it's really similar to the one from the Colored Rain Power palette. Just swatch that here. It's a little bit more warm toned, as you can see, a tad lighter. The next shade, it's called Pepper Body, and it's described as a sparkling champagne gold glitter, and I decided to rather just choose a champagne metallic. And this one, you guys, it's amazing. It's from Luxie Beauty, and it's called 79, and this one has one of the most amazing metallics formulas I've ever seen. It looks like molten, I don't even know, metal. And it swatches so good. It's like I can swatch this so far and still you can see I have product left on my finger. So I definitely recommend you to check out this if you don't like the glitter formula and you want something like that. But I'm quite sure most of us have this either in a palette or as a single shadow already, so yeah, it's not really a very unique shade. The next shade in the palette is called Busy Body, and it's described as a playful bright matte magenta pink. And for that one I actually have 4 different dupes. And this one is called Cherry Blossom. It's from Luxie Beauty. It's one of their newer mattes. It's actually from their spring collection. And this one is a super close dupe to some other single shadows that I have in my collection, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have too. I'll just swatch this out first. So I'm just going to swatch Cherry Blossom right here. So you can see it's a super bright magenta pink. I think it could be a very good dupe for the one in the palette. I do also have a couple of others, as I said. So this one is Sandbar by Colourpop, and I know that this is a very, this is a cult favorite for those who want a bright pink. I know a lot of people have this, and this one is actually from the Ooh La La palette, so if you have that, then you do have this shade. As you can see, they're so similar. And another one that I have that I would say is a almost perfect dupe for these two, it's the shade Party Drip from Colored Rain. So if you have their Vivid Pigments or the Vivid Pigments palette, then you also have this shade. So I'm going to swatch that here. It's maybe even brighter than the other two, but they're all so similar. I'm sure no one would notice if you wore one on the left eye and one on the right. Also, if you're looking for a very cheap and affordable alternative, this one is Hollywood Cerise. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's from Coastal Scents. They have decent shadows for a really cheap price. This one performs okay in my opinion, and it's a little bit more muted than the other three that I have here. So you can build it up for sure, but it is more muted in color and in application, I would say. But as you can see, it's still very similar. And now we're finally ready for the last shade, called Clout. I do not like that name. It's described as a sparkling blue glitter, and as I said, I did not add any glitters to my dupe palette, but this one, you guys, oh, it's so beautiful. This one is the shade called Glitch from Pretties for Your Face, and it actually does have a purple shift to it, but you can't really see it that well in this lighting that I'm using. But oh my god, this is so glittery and beautiful. You you're going to love this. So if you do like sparkly things like me, you should definitely check out this brand. I do have a whole video where I swatch all the shades that I picked up from them. And this one, as you can see, you should use with a glitter glue, but it's super pigmented and sparkly. And I feel like it looks quite a lot like the swatch photo, because there you can see that it does have a darker base if you look to the right on the swatch photo. So I think this could be a good dupe. So that, you guys, sums up all of the different dupes that I chose. I'm just going to go ahead and wash myself, and I will go ahead and swatch the whole palette on my arm so that I only have the ones that I actually chose as dupes on my arm, so you can see that. So I just swatched all of the different shades, and I'll just try to show them to you. Maybe I will even light a little bit with my phone, so maybe you can see a bit of the sparkliness and duochrome-ness that they have. I'm just lighting from the side like this right now, but at least here you can see all of the shades swatched out, and I really enjoy this color story. And here you can see a little bit of that purple that I was talking about with the shade Glitch, the last one there. So yeah, I really like this color story, and I cannot promise that I won't be buying it once the actual Juvia's Place palette goes on sale, because they so often do like 50% sale plus a 10% code from your favorite influencer that they have as affiliates. So I might actually purchase this palette at one point, but as you can see from all of the swatches, I don't necessarily need to, because obviously I have a lot of similar colors in my collection. So I do hope that this video was helpful for you, and if you have any questions about any of the shadows that I've mentioned in this video, then please leave a comment down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!